Aaron Ask America.
Welcome to Aaron Ask America. On today's episode, we have an awesome woman of God, an author. Her name is Sarah. I'm excited to talk to her about her book. Last episode, I apologize. My audio was off. We fixed it. Not sure exactly what happened, but this week's episode audio should be so much better. We'll be more diligent this week than last week. But Sarah, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
First of all, I love your family, right?
I love them too.
I would hope you do, right? But I forget how long we've known each other, but I have, we've been serving at the same church for years now. Your dad and I have prayed together about multiple topics, and we've broken bread together several times. So it's just been an honor to know your family over. My brain sucks, so I don't know how many years, but it's just been an honor getting to know your family, right? So, the important question we always start off with is, this is where the entire audience will judge you, where they hit the off button. I'm just kidding. But who is your favorite superhero and why is it Batman?
Okay, I have to admit I do love Batman.
Of course.
I do love him.
Yeah.
I think I started off watching with the Batman Begins movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got a little scared at the beginning with the bats
Yeah.
all flying around. I love it. I love Heath Ledger's Joker. Love the dynamic between the two.
Yeah.
And I do love Batman Lego Batman.
Lego Batman with, what was his name?
I can't remember.
I think it's Will Forte is the guy that plays Batman. You know, that
Sure.
was a really popular movie. I'm surprised there hasn't been a sequel. That's the thing that's blown my mind about the whole Lego Batman movie was I thought it made a ton of money, and maybe it didn't. Maybe the veil is over my eyes because of my love for the Batman, right? Well, like, that movie was great. Everybody loved it, and maybe nobody did like it. Because, at the end of that specific movie was family, right? It was all about Joker not feeling a part and not feeling a part of the Bat family or wanted by Batman. It was an interesting story that they told with Lego Batman.
Yeah, it was.
Did you play any of the Lego Batman games?
We started playing. I play all the Lego games with my dad. I play them all. We started. I think it was Batman Villains. I can't remember which one it actually was, but we kind of quit the game. It wasn't as fun as we were expecting. So no, didn't really play that one.
So, that I think it's this year, there's another Lego Batman game coming out. I think it's supposed to be all of the Batmans. I think it's like from Adam West through
Holy crap.
maybe Affleck Batman. And don't quote me on it. I can't really remember because the Lego stuff I haven't really played. Like I tried to do like Lego Star Wars.
Oh, we started with that one.
Yeah,
Way at the beginning.
I just couldn't get into it. I don't know why, but I just couldn't get into the Lego, so I didn't want to go down that path.
Well, I gotta tell you, with the Lego Star Wars, it takes forever to actually get money, and then you have to get the red bricks. So, like, later games had better. It was more fun to play.
Okay.
Like, one of my favorites is Lord of the Rings. I like doing Lord of the Rings because it had an open world map, and you had to follow the ghost studs to get to your new story. So it was fun. And you had gold bricks throughout the mithril bricks, not gold bricks.
Yeah, mithril,
around
yeah.
the cities, so you could go into the cities and solve puzzles and whatnot.
Huh. I'll have to look into this. So was it Fellowship or was it all three of them?
All three.
Oh, okay.
And then they came out with the Hobbit one.
If they were mimic the movies, then I'll pass. But if it mimicked the book, then okay.
It was based off the movies. I agree with you because I didn't really like the Hobbit movies either. Especially I've read the book quite a few times. So when I actually watched the movie, I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. Oh my goodness, they brought to life these poems and things like that. And then they started getting into like just branching off into who knows where, and I'm like.
Like what was the name of the brown wizard? Was it started with the R again?
Radagast.
Yeah, Radagast. That's what it was.
Radagast the Brown.
Like they just expanded on that. They expanded on Gandalf in like a prison with Sauron.
Same with the orc. I think the
white orc?
Yes, with Sauron, it was only like mentioned. The necromancer was mentioned in like one line in one paragraph, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like it's beautifully shot, well acted.
Here's what I'll tell
I
you.
can't compare it to the books.
Yeah, yeah. Here's what I'll tell you. Like, I was there for all three movies. Like, I did not like the first one, and I was like, okay, I get it, right? Maybe they messed up and they fixed it in the Desolation of Smaug. Plus, I wanted to see Benedict Cumberbatch play Smaug
Yeah.
because at the time, I don't know if you watched the TV show Sherlock, but like Sherlock and what was his name, Martin Freeman, right? They were Sherlock and Watson, right? So,
We're actually watching that right
are
now.
you
Yes.
first time?
Yeah.
What season are you on?
Season 3,
Oh my
episode
gosh.
2, I believe.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. I know we're ADHD and out, but I'm going to tell you right now Sherlock is a show that I wish I could forget and rewatch for the first time.
Yes, I can already tell. Like from the very beginning, it's just the humor is great. Love the action
Yes.
and just the mysteries and things like that. It's well done, especially bringing in Sherlock from and turning it into a modern setting.
Yeah. So one of my favorite lines like ever written in TV and movies comes from Sherlock season 1. I want to say it's episode 1. They walk into a room. It's him, Watson, two police officers, and I want to say there's a murder, but I can't remember what actually is going on in the room. But like Sherlock goes, "Stop that!" And the police officer goes, "What?" He goes, "You're thinking," right?
Yeah.
Somebody else thinking was distracting him, and to me that was just so good. And yeah, so I don't know how the show is laid out for you, like if you're watching it on Netflix, but like they did a Christmas special, and you should watch the Christmas special
We
too.
don't have the Christmas special
Don't
where
have
we're
the
watching it. The only special we have is I don't know if it's the Christmas special, but it is set in when Sherlock is set
yes,
in
so
that time period.
that is
So that is the one.
that's a Christmas special.
Okay.
That was like a one-off episode they did out of in between the third and fourth season.
We can watch that.
Okay, yeah.
We're just not there yet.
So good. Like, oh my goodness, I wish I could talk to you about the rest of the show, but
Yeah, please don't.
I know. Hey, our church has a spirit of spoilers in it, and I have asked God to remove it from our church, but He has not. But I'm not part of that culture. I don't spoil anything because
I appreciate it.
I'm watching a show right now that Chris, not your dad, but the other Chris. Told me to watch, and he's like, "Hey, where are you at?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm in season 3, episode blah blah." He's like, "Did this happen?" I'm like, "No, but like spoilers. Why would you ask me that? Like, if you don't know the exact moment of when something happens, right? That's why I don't ask you. Like, I'm like, hey, so you're at this point in Sherlock's story. Did this happen? Like, because I could totally just destroy everything because it's such a phenomenal show.
And I've actually managed to stay away from spoilers.
The show is so far removed from pop culture that you should be, right? There should be no reason for any spoilers to pop up in your world unless you just walk up to somebody that you don't know and you're like, "Hey, have you ever watched Sherlock?" and then just surprise them and them just spoil something for you.
Yeah.
It was the same way with the TV show you might remember called Lost. So Lost was a TV.
Never finished it.
Never did. So my
But I know
wife,
the ending.
huh?
I know the ending.
So my wife and I, we didn't watch it while it was on TV. And then all of a sudden it shows up on Netflix way back when Netflix first started doing the streaming stuff. So we kind of binged all of Lost. And what I have learned through watching that show is if you watched it live on TV, if you went through all the seasons, I think it's 7 seasons, so 7 years, right, thinking and putting all this thought into what the island was, and then the ending you got wasn't what you expected, then you end up hating the series. Christy and I, we just burned right through it, and we were like, why did everybody hate the show? But well, we didn't spend
Right.
8 years, waiting between seasons and then getting the ending that we got. We got it all basically at once, and we enjoyed Lost. But the whole reason I brought up Lost is because it was so out of pop culture that like when we started watching it, everybody was done talking about it. Like it had already come, gone, made everybody mad, and then everybody got done talking about it. We missed all the spoilers, so when we sat down to watch it, it was just spoiler free. We didn't have to worry about it. So I think you're in that spot with Sherlock. When Benedict Cumberbatch's name comes up, I'm like, I wonder if he's looking to do another season or if they can do something together. But I think that both of their careers are so huge that there's no way they can go back and do a BBC show for what? Nothing? Who knows how much money the BBC paid him to do that?
That's why you don't do it for the money. You do it for the project.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. He goes from playing Doctor Strange, probably making like, let's say 15 million a movie, and then he goes and does Sherlock and gets paid like base pay from his government. Who knows how much he got paid for that. But so the reason why I wanted you on the podcast was because you are an author. You have written two books. Three. Sorry, I thought there was two. So you have three books. One is on the way, coming out in March. That's the Dexter. If you want to take the wide shot here, this is the one that's coming out in March called "Vengeance Is Mine."
Or at the beginning of April, either
No.
the end of March or the beginning of April.
Okay, so one or the other. We'll have the link in the bio at some point for people to see and start the wave of people wanting to read this book. But so even though I've never published anything, I've written like I think 4 feature length movies. So like we have like a commonality of like the want to create something, right? Aside from like a podcast or what I do on Twitch, we've filmed like all kinds of crazy movies, just goofy stuff, right? So the art of creation is something that I love seeing in people. I try to push it on both of my kids. Do both of them listen? No, but yeah. So I wanted you on here to talk about your process of writing and each book. If you wanted to talk about them, or if you just want to talk about Vengeance Is Mine since it's about to come out, however you wanted to go. But like, what started you down the path of being an author?
So, ever since I was young, I've always written down like beginnings of books and then the endings of books. Never really the middle portion because that's like the hardest part for me.
Right.
So I started like 30 different books and so many different ideas. And then I was going into the bookstore and I'm like looking through all these books and I'm like, no, 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 nah. Nothing was speaking to me. So I'm like, I was talking to my mom. I'm like, Mom, I can't find a book I want to read. And she goes, well, why don't you write one and finish one? So I'm like, okay, I'll try.
Thanks, Mom. I'm going to do that right now. Do you remember the first thing you wrote down? I guess do you still have it?
Yes, I started the book I chose started actually with a Pinterest prompt, and it was about a school filled with supernatural creatures. And so then I started playing around like, oh, well, what if this happens or what if this? So when I first started writing the book, I had a scene where my main character, Sasha, was a teacher and she was gathering all these young dragons into her classroom and she was teaching them the history of dragons. And so I had one of a different character stand up and he's reading this story that was inspired by the Tales of Beetles and Bard from Harry Potter. and I finished writing the scene and I'm like, that is so boring. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
So I removed the story because I knew I wanted to keep it and I just put it aside. And so then I was like, well, what happens is Sasha has to find each of these dragons? Who does she have to find? Why does she have to find them? Where does she need to bring them back? So that's how I created my entire world, where it's set in modern times, but supernatural creatures are separated from humans, where they do their own thing, but they mingle around them. So it's like, that would be funny if supernatural creatures, like every 20 years, has to go to like this place called the Academy, which is run by a 4-foot nymph, a redwood nymph called Red. And they have to go there every 20 years because they have to keep up with human technology, human history, things like that. And they have to get name changes, address changes, and all these different things. And I'm like, that would be fun.
So do the dragons and the people interact?
Humans?
Yeah.
Hardly.
What did I say? Did I say what?
The people.
Oh, yeah,
I have to double
humans.
check because
Yeah.
in my story, the supernatural creatures do look like humans, but they can transform into dragons.
Okay.
So, and I have shapeshifters, nymphs, water creatures, nightmare-like creatures, things like that. But they mainly stay apart because they are them, and it's like us versus them, where humans are just they're there. You
Yeah,
have to.
they're afraid of things that they don't understand. Yeah.
And so I have that, and then when I started thinking of the dragons, I started going to like D&D meanings of colors. So I figure out what their abilities are based on what the color of them are. So I have like a red dragon and a black dragon, things like that.
So you're gonna have to like educate me just a little bit. So when the D&D colors, like, so what powers would a red dragon have?
So I took inspiration, but I didn't copy
Okay.
entirely. So with the red dragon, it's like your basic fire dragon, and they're in human form. They're like a fire mage, where they can just throw fireballs and fire tornadoes and things like that. So I have that one, and then the black dragon is actually a fighter, and my character Rachel is like she's very strong physically, and but when she's in a black dragon form, hardly anything can touch her. Like hardly anything will pierce her scales.
Is she the main character?
No, she's a friend.
Is the main character, because I have to ask this, and maybe you might know this reference, maybe you don't, but is there at least one dragon named Leroy Jenkins?
No,
Do you know that reference? Okay, well then,
I'm sorry.
No, no, it's a Warcraft thing. Okay, there's a video game out there, World of Warcraft. It's a famous video. Look it up at some point. But the people were in a raid. It was a dragon raid. Okay, and during the raid, there's this area where you're not supposed to go into and touch any eggs. If you open up the eggs, all these dragons come out and kill everybody. And the people were in a big circle talking about how they were going to take this room out. And the guy goes, Leroy. He just screams his name, goes Leroy Jenkins, and he runs in there, activates all the dragons, and the dragons just come in and kill everybody. So I just didn't know. It was poorly timed joke, just because not everybody plays World of Warcraft. Big nerd. Sorry,
I'm sorry. The game I'm playing right now is Ni no Kuni.
I've never even heard of that.
Not many people have. Or
But-
at least not many people that I talk to have.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
What is it on?
PS.
Okay. So, what is? I don't want to go down that right. Let's get back
Sorry.
to no.
Sorry.
Let's get back to your book. I almost ADHD down that rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
but I would follow you too and just keep talking.
You would have been like, oh yeah, this game right here. Back to the dragons. Okay, so we know that there is the lady that was the black dragon, that when she's in dragon form, nothing can hurt her. But what about the main character?
Sasha? I don't want to get too far into detail because
Yeah.
that's kind of a spoiler. For
Oh well,
book
then
2.
let's just put. Then let me pull it back. Then, so this book that you wrote about the dragons, is it the first of many, or is it going to be a self-contained story?
So I have written book 1 and published it under the name The Bleeding Heart. It's going to be the Dragon Blood Chronicles.
Okay.
And I have book 2 written, but I'm going to redo it a bit because I got some really good feedback for what's missing in the story. But I thought it was going to be a trilogy. However, I have a bad guy that I was setting up in book 2, and you can't exactly defeat a bad guy and have like a satisfying ending
Yeah.
if you don't build him up first. So that's where I'm like, oh shoot, I need to write book 3, build up this villain so people understand like, hey, he's a bad guy. You need to take him out. And
Yeah.
then have like a satisfying ending to where I'm still thinking of how I really want to end this series, but it's probably going to be 4 books.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
And when you come up with this 4-book arc, do you have like the equivalent of a dry erase sport? So you have like Sasha's name, and then you have like the point where she's supposed to go to, and then you have I don't know the black dragon guy's name, our lady's name. Then you have her where her ending wants to go. Do you have that, or you just softly tiptoeing through that portion right now?
I'm tiptoeing through it. So there are 2 different types of writers, right? Like I like George R.R. Martin's version of an architect versus a gardener, where a gardener just plants the seeds and watches it grow, and an architect, you have to plan everything out, measure everything, make sure it's all good. So I have a structured garden. So I have ideas of where I want these characters to end up, but if I put myself into a box so much, I can't write.
Yeah.
Because it's just the ideas don't flow. So I have an idea, But I can try that plot point, see where exactly I wanted to end up, because that's how I did with book two.
Don't put that on me. I don't, because if you're like Aaron, I got writer's block. I did it. I made the road. Stick with the George R. R. Martin style, but
I'll just burn the paper.
know what you need to do is you need to finish it because we're still waiting on Winds of Winter. Still hasn't come out yet. Then we still got Dream of Spring, but he's working on Night of the Seven Kingdom. He's working on. I guess I must have moved the books, but I have all the hardback books of the Song of Ice and Fire. But
Didn't he say that he's never going to finish Game of Thrones?
well, Song of Ice and Fire is he's supposedly working on book 6 right now, but there's supposed to be the next one. He's been working on Winds of Winter since 2000, I think 10. Yeah. So the way I throw it to people that are trying that may potentially read these books, he started. I think Game of Thrones came out in '97, and so since then the entirety of the Harry Potter books have been written, published, turned into movies. Right. The show Game of Thrones has come out, filmed all the way to its ending, and he still hasn't released a book since all of that. And that to me that's wild. That is, and within that time frame, he's released a book called World of Ice and Fire, and then there's Blood and I think it's called Blood, and I forget what it's called. I have all of them because I was really into it until the end of that show. The end of the show was bad, but back to your arc, like so when you're writing like book 3 based off of what you're telling me is even when you get to book 3 at this point, like if you're working the garden and you're like, you know what, probably not going to be able to finish this by book 4, you can extend it to even book 5.
Yes.
That's so much of a smarter way to write. See, I never heard of that method before because for me,
Neither have I.
yeah, for me, like the way I would write is you describe specifically. I'm not even lying to you. Like I would get an idea based off an ending of a movie, right? So, or I got I wrote the last movie I wrote was a movie called Abaddon the Destroyer because Abaddon is the name of somebody that's in Revelation. So I got this idea of a Christian horror movie. And so when I sat down to write a Christian horror movie, it turned into something totally different. But the premise started of this dark figure chasing these people through the forest, and they were trying to stop the dark figure was trying to stop them from getting from point A to point B. And when I had that idea, when that thing popped into my head, I was like, okay, so how do we expand this? And then once I started pondering on it, then I got the ending. So I was like, okay, now how do I get Paul from
Point A to point B.
point A to point B?
Yep.
And whenever I wrote the movie, I always write low budget, so I wrote it in a way that, like, if I ever got a bunch of people together, like, we could film here, we could film at one church, we could film at some like a building, and then you could just film the entirety of the movie for as low budget as possible. There's a couple of points in there where there's gunfire and stuff like that, but other than that, like, especially as time has progressed, like, you can have a gun that looks real and just pull the trigger and then add all sound effects and everything into it, and people just think that you were shooting blanks like they did back in the day. Because did you ever watch The Walking Dead?
A bit.
So
It wasn't exactly my type of show.
toward the middle end of the show, like a lot of the knives that they had, they were just handles. So when they would stab somebody, they would just go in and digitally put the blade in there. So they're like stabbing you, but it's like the wound is fake and there's no blade. So it's like,
Interesting.
yeah, that's how far that they've. Not that I would have that kind of budget, but like you could get the idea of like you can just do a zoom in where you don't see the tip of the gun. You can just pull the trigger and kind of shake the camera as you're pulling the trigger. But yeah, so when you were describing the way that you came up with your topics, and then now you're telling me about this other thing where, as you write, you're open to extending it and everything like that. That's my mind's totally blown because I've never dove into that portion of writing. I just wrote.
Yeah, I do have to say I have a character called Banana Moon, and almost all her scenes are unplanned whatsoever. Whatever she says, her actions, things like that, it's unplanned, and she's like my crazy witch who lives in the woods, pretty much, based off of my mother. Oh, no, no, no.
Give me the camera. Give me the camera. I did not approve of that message. I didn't. I didn't.
She knows about this too, by the way. She loves it so much that she's like, if she ever opens up an apothecary, it would be Banana Moon Apothecary.
That's
She
awesome.
loves the
Yeah,
character.
that's awesome.
Because, yeah, Banana Moon is just loopy, free spirited, but she also tries to keep Sasha on track in her own way. So,
So is the without giving too much away? So Sasha, is she like in a group of people that are trying to accomplish something? So the reason why I'm asking is, so is Banana Mood consistently around Sasha? So that way she's always a part of the story, or is it something like, like at the beginning of book 2, she goes to Banana Moon for guidance or whatever?
so when at the beginning of the book, Red kind of like throw Sasha to the wind, where here is the list of the dragons, here's their last known location. You need to find them before the Bleeding Heart can, and the Bleeding Heart is my cult. And they are hunting down dragons and murdering them and just ripping their hearts out. And so they're like, hey, there's not many dragons left. You need to bring them to safety at the academy. So during her travels, she actually needed to find Banana Moon, but with Banana Moon, like, she kind of finds you instead.
Yeah.
So I kind of played with that, like Lord of the Rings, where a wizard is never late. He's
Yeah.
always arrives when he's supposed to be. Yeah, that's Banana Moon. So she kind of finds them instead, and like she just comes flying out of nowhere and tackles my main character and just hugs her. So
Well, I still made my disclaimer. Okay. I'm scared of your mom.
don't be like
No,
that.
I'm just kidding. I love your mom. So I don't know how much you listen to, and this is a real quick rabbit hole, but like whenever I interviewed your dad and he told me how they met and how she was a California, I had, because if you don't know, you just don't know. And like when he was talking about how she's a California girl, I was like, that's wild to me because I've only known y'all from Texas. You just assume everybody's from Texas. So that was one thing that blew my mind about whenever I spoke to your dad about his up and I guess it was during his Marine days. So yeah, whenever I was like, oh my goodness, a California girl, I was like, yep, that's wild to me. But anyways, so back to the dragon. Sorry, I took us down
Memory lane.
memory lane with your parents that you probably know way too much about, and you're like, I don't want to talk about them.
I know it so much that I remember Mom saying that Dad tells the story better, so if you want to know more, ask him. And she makes him tell the story instead of her.
Yeah, so like my parents, they met at Winn-Dixie. They were both working for Winn-Dixie. That's their love story. I'm like, just make kids something be better. Like make something up, right? But no. But as far as that series goes, so that's one that you've completed book 1 on, and you're working on book 2. So so when you say that, so this is the 3rd book, right?
This
But-
is the 3rd book I've written, but it is completely separate from my fantasy series.
Yeah. So what I was going to ask is the book that's in between the Dragon book and this book, is that something completely different than the Dragon book as well?
This one?
No,
Or-
the book, the second book you're writing.
The second book is a sequel to The
Okay,
Bleeding
okay.
Heart. So it's still in the same. Though I am working on a 4th book, which is a horror comedy.
A horror comedy like
Yes.
like Evil Dead.
A bit. It's more of an author forgets she made a vow to finish this book, and she never finishes it, and she dies instead, finishing her main series. And so when the Grim Reaper is taking her soul away, she gets stopped by the goddess of storytelling and lost tales, and says like, "Hey, you didn't complete that vow. You owe me a story," and just throws her into her unfinished book. So the fun comes in because you have characters that aren't named, like the lawyer, things like that. And dialogue hasn't been completed, so while the characters are speaking, there'll be like a little author's note that they'll say out loud because she made notes to, and so she wanted to write a horror book, and so she threw in a bunch of tropes, thinking that she would never have to live it. She's terrified of horror and hates horror, so she doesn't want the horror to actually happen. So she has to figure out how to finish this story and how to stop it from happening and make sure she doesn't die. So it's just, I have a bunch of funny gags.
Yeah,
At least in
that's
my opinion, they're funny.
yeah, that's a really cool idea. You'll have to let me know as you progress further in that. I really like that idea. Like, and then when you finish the book, you could be like, oh, I love the witch. What was she called? The stories. What was that lady? The one that stops her from going to crossing over.
Her name is Alice, goddess of
Yeah,
storytelling and
the
lost tales.
the goddess of storytelling, lost tales can be like, hey, I loved your story so much. Now go do another one, and then throw her into another book, right? Just like, and it would be like cliff notes that she had thrown away like 20 years ago when she started the other book. But yeah, so what I want to do is I definitely want to talk about this book, The Vengeance Is Mine, because I know that's the main reason why you were here on the podcast. So when it comes to this specific book, what was the starting point for this one? Like what was the what's the word I'm looking for? What was the reason for writing this book?
So this book started out being called How to Survive a Baptist Cult. And it was going to be like almost a satire on fundamental and legalism and things like that. And I also was thinking of a different book to where I write a character, I write what happened to her, and then she gets revenge. And she gets what she wants. But I never could finish it. I could only write a page, and then I can't do this. So then, as I was writing the second book, last year, I started getting this feeling on my heart like, hey, you need to write this book. And it needs to be about healing. It can't be about revenge or anything like that. Anything that you've written out, it's got to be this story. And you have to make sure you write about healing. And I said, no, I'm not going to write that. I don't want to write
I'll
that.
go into the belly of the whale before I do that.
Oh, yeah. I really didn't want to because I also have a poetry book that I'm probably going to publish with this. And in this poetry book, I have very emotional poems that I wrote in the moment as I'm having like a panic attack or something in church. And their anger, they're just almost like letters to God, just why God? Why are you doing this? And I wrote one specific one called Broken. And it talks about how like, I'm broken, God, when are you going to fix me? And God laid it on my heart like, hey, you need to publish that. You need to publish that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do that in like a poetry book. And they're like, you need to write your story. And you need to get it out there. And it needs to be about healing. And I really didn't want to write the book. And it wasn't until I sat down and I'm like, I don't even know where to begin. So I'm like, I thought I was going to have like two different girls tell similar stories. And then at the end be like, they're the same person, just different times. I wrote myself into a box. I had like 23 pages in. I couldn't write anymore. So I got fed up. I opened up a brand new Word doc and I started just writing scenes and just scene after scene after scene. And next thing I knew, I had 100 pages written.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, this is better than I was expecting. I wrote a lot of the darker scenes, the more emotional scenes, and it was easier to do. Very interesting. And then I was like, okay, how am I going to plot this book? How am I going to section it off or tell the story? And how do I connect these dots together? So I have 5 parts to the book. And part 1 is open wounds, festering wounds, cleansing wounds, healing wounds, and fading scars. And it tells the life of Ruth as she experiences hurt in the church and abandonment by this church and learning and seeing the hypocrisy of Christians and just thinking that, if these are God's people, then this must be what God is like.
Yeah.
And so, slowly they get out of this place and they start going to new churches, and she's like trying to figure out, do I still keep going to church? Like, even at one point in the book, she's like, I don't want to be a Christian anymore. And I can't tell anyone this because that's not a Christian thought. You have to be, all throughout the book, you hear like, she's the good Christian girl. She has to be the good Christian girl. She has to pretend, wear the Christian mask and pretend. You got to play the game.
Yeah.
And so it's not until she starts, not until part 4, where she finally is in a spot where all her friends in my life, all my friends were gone, moved to college, and we went to a new church. I had no friends there, no one my age, so there was no way for me to actually distract myself from figuring out who God is and what He means to me. And that's where it was a dark time, but it was a time where I could figure out, like, I could talk to God and I could be angry, and I was angry at Him. I was ready to just give it all up. I was even in the poems, you even see like, I don't want your love, your fleeting love. God hates me. God abandoned me. Things like
Yeah.
that, and just
Valid feelings that people go through, whether they're a part of a church or outside of the church. These are feelings that I talk to people all the time about online, where they're trying to figure out what objective truth is, and so yeah.
and um, and it's not until in part 4 that I bring in the poems, and I write them almost exactly how they came to me, and it's not until a little later, like, God starts answering, and I end part 4 on a poem called God's Love Song, and it was just like the accumulation of all these hatred and suicidal thoughts, depression, panic attacks, like all these different things. And then I have a poem before called Suffocation, and it was talking about, like, I don't want fleeting arms wrapped around me. I don't want, fleeting love. Like, you're a liar. Your love is a lie. And can I?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's your book.
I'm just going to read the ending to this chapter. Let's see. Sorry, just one moment.
Nope. These are powerful words that come from valid feelings. That's one of the things that people don't do, is they don't validate the feelings of how you feel when it comes to what happens in the church.
Oh, yeah, because this book will also, I do have warnings in the book just because of how deep this book gets. Like, you have religious trauma, you have suicidal thoughts, suicidal attempt, you have self-harm, sexual assault, and panic attacks. Like, that is all wrapped up in this book. And, like, I found the ending to that one. It was called No Love at first, but I'm like, no. This feeling you get when you read the poem, it's suffocation. And let's see. After she finishes the poem, she's like, tears are already pulling down my face when I leave the room. It hurts. But the truth is supposed to hurt. I need to grow used to it. I don't need love. I don't need anyone there. I certainly don't need a God who doesn't care that I'm in pain. I don't need the people who claim to be Christians. But it hurts so much because I don't need love, and love doesn't need me. And so I'm in this mindset of, I can't be loved. I'm unlovable. I am broken. I am hurting. I am depressed. And all throughout this book, she feels abandoned. And I felt abandoned because when we left our first church, I still remember the words to this day. A woman I had known came up to me and said, I hope your family gets back with God. I'll be praying for you. As we're leaving this cultish setting. And it just stuck with me, like, are you kidding me? And everybody turned their backs on us. To this day, I hardly ever speak to anyone I grew up with. So when I see people and they're still, like, have childhood friends to this day, and they're like, oh yeah, we've been friends for like 20-something years. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How can you do that? But anyway, talking about the love, and this actually happened. That's the crazy thing is, God gave me a song called "God's Love Song,"
Mm.
and I don't know if you want me to read it out
You
loud
can,
or not.
yeah. I want you to read it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Like spoilers alert.
Hey, it's your book. It's the main thing that I wanted to, because I kind of had an idea of the book before, of course, before you got here, but you just don't know who's going to be watching, and you reading something that you've gone through that somebody literally is going through right now could stop them. Right. My co-host has a tattoo right here that says "Stay another day." Right. He has it on there for a very specific reason, right? So like when you have something that people have gone through and you have made it over that hurdle to a degree, right? So if somebody hears that, okay, well, I I'm literally in it right now. How did she do it? Hearing somebody that has gone through it. So like, yeah, if you read it, that's what you're here for. I want to hear
Okay.
it.
So this was written when I was in a car, and we were heading to a ladies' retreat, and I was just feeling so down that day. Like I was stuffed in a corner. Like the world is too loud. These women are too noisy. It's overwhelming. It's too much. I can't handle this. And like I'm trying to like, I I used to claw my arms, and so the pain would help bring me back. And because I'm like I can't panic here. I'm in a room full of these women. They're Christians. They can't know. They can't know I'm breaking. They can't know because they're gonna use it against me.
They'll judge you.
They'll judge
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And so I open up my notebook and I'm like, I need to write. I have to write. I have to get this down. And then as I am about to start writing, like these words pop into my head. Excuse me. I want to sing you a love song, but I don't have the words to show how much you mean to me and how much you are worth. There's a place by my side that only you can fill. A place inside my heart is waiting for you still. I love you in the morning when I see your face at night. I love you in the brightest moments and in the darkest times. My love won't last a moment. I'll be here to lift you high. Through these storms and trials, I won't let them touch your life. I want to sing you a love song, but it can't reach your ears. You've locked your heart away from me to keep out all your fears. That's not the way to live, my child. You'll fade until you're gone. Let me hold you in my arms tonight, for it's where you belong. I love you in the springtime. I'll still love you in the fall. I'll hold your heart inside my hands, but you must knock down that wall. For my love won't last a moment. I will stay close to your side. Through the struggles and the heartache, upon me you can rely. My daughter, this is true. I will never tell you lies. Your trust is far too precious, same as the light inside your eyes. Now I know that you've been hurt, and your life feels undone, but you've so much more to live through, and your journey must move on. I love you in the future like I've loved you in the past. You've never strayed far from my reach, can't you see the truth at last? You've never fallen out of grace, I'm always here to set you free. Let my love encompass you, all you need is to believe.
That's awesome.
You know, like,
I
and
I
I,
enjoyed that.
I see it as God gave me those words,
Yeah.
and that was his answer to suffocation. And it's just,
Yeah.
still gets me sometimes.
It will get you until the moment you see Jesus face to face. Because when you understand, and I don't understand that level. So when I say, oh, I understand that, I really don't, just because I don't know the level of pain that you've gone through. But like, you understand a different level than I will ever get. So when you see him face to face, you're just gonna be like, like I'm gonna be that way too. But like, you were there, and yeah, yeah,
It wasn't until I wrote the book that I actually saw how much was answered, how much God answered in my life, and how much He was there. Like, whenever I would go to a new church, I would always be like, okay, if they do this, I know never to come back. If this happens, I am done with church. I'm never going back. And they never happen. And so I just keep going to the churches, and I start learning, like, the first church we found after after this cultish setting was called Freedom. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
But while we were there, the first night we went there, I'm like, what is this place? Because the doorman was this just big old guy, and he just wraps you up in a hug, and you're like, what's going on here?
Wow. Like as you're walking in the door, your first
He's
time
like,
visitor, you don't get a card, you get a hug.
he's like, hey, how's it going? How are you? And just like gives you this big old hug, and he knew everybody by name. And it was just this atmosphere of just friendship and fellowship, and these people weren't judging each other. And so when I went to the youth group, I met my crazy best friend. And I started learning, like, it's okay to learn to be yourself. Because before that, I was like, if I'm going to make friends, if I'm no longer going to be bullied at school, I have to change everything about me. I have to pretend to be just like them. Laugh when they laugh, talk when they talk.
Being fake for acceptance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't until I met her and this other guy that I was like, oh, you guys aren't scared of being yourself. And so they slowly got me out of my shell. I'm still friends to this day. Like, to this day. But it wasn't until, like, another thing in the book. So at the beginning, I used to be terrified of men because of this one person. And I was like, he didn't do anything. He just stared at me, and just, he was also my teacher, as well as pastor. So, when I would go up and ask questions, he would, like, put his hand on the back of on my upper back, and just trail his hand down.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but he's my pastor and he's my teacher. So it's probably just me, and I'm seeing it wrong. And it wasn't until after I got saved that I fully remembered what happened with this man and why I was so terrified of men. And I that's in the book. So that's why there is warnings at the beginning of this book, like, this is what you're going to put up with. And as my dad was a beta reader, and he'll tell you, like, this is raw and unfiltered. And at least I haven't seen a lot of Christians' books like that.
Yeah.
Because,
Agreed.
like, even after salvation, that's when I still have pain, and I still have to struggle to forgive this person.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just, getting saved isn't a cure-all. I still do struggle with depression some days, and dark thoughts and things like that. But and where the healing comes in is that I have the love of Jesus with me. I have someone who walks with me through the entire thing. I'm never alone. I have him to rely on. And it's like, and that's why God's like, you need to write this book. People need to know that you can heal. And that it's okay to have these feelings. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to have this hatred. Just don't hold on to it.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've learned over the past 8, almost 9 years, talking to people through the internet, is the large amount of hurt. And these are people that are saved, that still carry. And in some ways it's okay for that, because you're going, the stuff that you go through is what defines you, right? So there are things that God can help you let go of and obtain forgiveness, because that's what we're supposed to. We're supposed to forgive and everything like that. But like that, just because you forgive somebody, like you were just saying, doesn't mean that the enemy still won't attack you. And that's where being fallen creatures comes into play. Like whenever I think of, because you and I don't really know each other on a personal level, so like, my oldest son, his biological mother basically abandoned him. Right? She abandoned him. She went into this full life of craziness, and then I think 5, 6 years ago, she finally died. And so,
Oh
like, when
wow.
I think about her, there's pity because we know where she is eternally, but like, there's still like, on a bad day, I'll be like,
Right.
right? Because like, I'm still human. There's still that festering thing that if I ponder on it too much, I'll be like, she may be dead, but she wrecked our lives to a degree, for 18 years of Brett's life by not actually actively being a part of his life. So, like, do I think about it all the time? No. Sometimes, like, if I'm just kind of hanging out, then the enemy will be like it's like a boop, and you're like, I know what you're doing, but then on a bad day, you
And
ponder
you
it.
just sit and
Yeah,
stay with it.
yeah. So that's why when you come across something like what you've been writing or what you're talking about, it's okay. If you were to come to me, even though I know you wouldn't, because it's to be weird. If you came to me like, hey, I'm really struggling with unforgiveness today, right? It would be my job as a Christian to be like, okay, let's pray about it. Let's get you over this, and it's okay that you're feeling this way because these are valid things to be angry about. But like you were saying earlier about figuring out a way to let them go. But yeah, you're gonna read something else.
Um, I have a section called Hatred and Forgiveness.
Mm.
And it happened at night about like 2 o'clock in the morning where I was like, hey, I had this dream about the man, but I was watching him suffer. And I was like, he deserves this. I want this to happen to him in real life. Hence the
Mm.
name,
Yeah.
Why Vengeance is Mine, because at the beginning, she wants revenge. She
Yeah.
wants vengeance. And it's learning that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
Yep.
And so I wrote this poem right after that dream is hatred. I still feel it after 10 long years. I see your face and rage wells within. In my dreams, you're an old man, withered away and fading. Your wife pushed you in a little wheelchair. The sight brought me happiness. I laughed long and hard, for it made me realize I don't wish for your death. I want you to suffer until you wish for death. Maybe once you're gone, you'll fade from this place and my memories as well. As soon as I finished writing that,
Mm.
immediately after, forgive them, forgive them. And just on a loop over and over. So I flipped the page and I'm like, forgive them. It's the only way. They bother your mind, for you once thrived on the hatred given to you. You let your wounds reopen, willingly peel the scab over your healing heart. You do it to remember, but why must you? Over 10 years ago, they did you harm. They tore your family apart. Can't you realize you're still giving them the power to rip you into tiny pieces? You're letting them harm you still, and they never lifted a finger. Forgiveness isn't easy, but it's the only way to heal. And as I finished writing that, I'm like, I don't want to forgive them.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? They don't deserve forgiveness. Like, forgive them. And I don't want to. They're evil. I shouldn't even be thinking of them. They're nothing. Nobody's. They're mere memories that can't hurt me. But they are. I sigh and bury my face into my pillow. The last phrase repeats in my head. Forgiveness isn't easy, but it's the only way to heal. I clench my jaw shut, tears forming in my eyes. Okay. I lift my head up and stare at the ceiling. You win. I take another deep breath. The words I wish I didn't have to say slip past my lips. I forgive you. I thought it would feel better. I thought the weight I carried would be lifted the moment I said those words, but it didn't. That wasn't the case. I felt exhausted and drained. My heart felt weird, like it was somehow light, yet wounded. I was torn between feeling relieved and nothing. Honestly, I wasn't sure what to think in that moment. Maybe I carried that hatred with me for too long, grown used to it fueling my life. Grown used to fueling my life with it. Now that it was removed, what should I use instead? I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing. When I closed my eyes to sleep, I never thought of Johnson again, the person in the book. All
Yeah.
names have been changed, so.
Yeah.
I didn't dream at all, and I woke up feeling refreshed. Like my head was above water, and I could truly breathe again. So it's like, I wanted to write that section because to let people know that when you forgive someone, it's not like in certain movies where I forgive you, and just like,
Yeah.
Life is perfect now. Like it might be perfect for like that 1 minute.
Yeah.
And then it hit me like a truck. Like, what am I supposed to do now? I feel like Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, where his hatred was no longer fueling his fire, so he couldn't really bend anymore. What is he gonna use instead? And that's sort of what the moment was.
Yeah.
So like,
And the thing about it is even how you could build a wall up, and that wall could be built up for years, where you think you've forgiven somebody, and then one attack from the enemy and you're back in it, and it's our job to make sure that we don't wallow in it. And my co-host Fred, I would love for you to meet Fred. He dealt with something. It's his story to tell. It's not mine. And he dealt with something that happened to him that drove him into, I think it was 15 years of just, and don't quote me on how many years, but he can't remember like the later 90s, early 2000s, because he did so much drugs and all that sort of stuff. And then God just reached out and yanked him out of all of it, and now he's a successful guy doing his own thing. But during that time of being yanked out, there was still a lot of dysfunction. There's still a lot of dysfunction, and even now, you catch him on a bad day, it's like it's the '90s all over again, and all of us, not as far as drug use, but like
right.
the unforgiveness. And he'll be the first to tell you. He'll text me, and I had a bad day today, and I'll say, okay, let's pray about it, let's talk about it, something like that. So my whole point, even bringing that up, is like forgiveness is something that we have to be actively on our guard about all the time. Not only about our past, but what's in front of us too, because there are things that we may not understand that's about to smack us in the face, and then we're back where we were just started. Like, oh man, I just got over this hurdle. Now I'm looking at something else that's even worse.
That's how I felt after I got saved because I was like, I got saved at camp, and I was a counselor, so I was like, oh, why do I need to talk to someone? It was that feeling. I had this feeling for like 3 days that I need to tell someone something. I need to talk to someone. And so I started talking to people. I'm like, hey, I just felt like I should talk to you, but I don't really know what to say. And it wasn't until like the night I was saved where it just hit me like, you really need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until preacher's wife just pulled me aside and she brought me into the room. And I'm like, I'm a counselor. I should be leading people into the room, not be led into it myself. And I thought I've been saved since like 2007. And she asked me that simple question, like, do you know 100% sure that you're going to heaven? And I couldn't answer her. I couldn't. Like, I tried opening my mouth saying, of course, yes, I know this. And no words
Yeah.
could get past.
The Holy Spirit conviction.
Yeah. It just, you know.
Yeah.
And he'll make sure you know. And so I got saved, and I just remember, like, just a whole entire weight just lifted entirely, and I just, like, bawling, tears falling down my face, and I go to the restroom, and, like, I even put this in the book, where, like, the first time in a while, I could look at myself and smile in the mirror, and it just, wow. Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I'm saved now. It's gonna be great. Do, 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 do. And then I get hit with this repressed memory, and it comes out of nowhere. It just hits at night. It starts off as a dream, and I wake up, and it's still playing in my head. I can't escape it. And I'm like, what's going on? And so that whole thing happened, and I'm like, why are you doing this to me, God? I could have been fine. But then I started like, so this is what happened. This is why I've been afraid of men. This is why, like, I get freaked out when someone I don't know just comes up and just taps me on my back, and I'm like, I freeze entirely. And so it's like, it's a daily struggle to deal with forgiveness. And it's been 3 years since I've remembered, and I'm slowly not remembering him anymore. He's slowly not popping into my head. And I talk about playing a game. Like, I used to play a game when I was a kid, and it was figuring out ways that I would murder him, pretty much. And so, but it turned into a game for me, and it was fun. Like, I could figure out all these different ways that I could get revenge, and and each time he pops into my head, I no longer think that because it's in God's hands. And he'll get vengeance for me. And one day, this man is going to stand before God, and he will have to answer for what he's done. And yeah, God's got my back.
Yeah, he is the ultimate judge.
Let him handle it.
Question that I do have
Yes.
is this person still alive?
I have no idea.
Is this person somebody that if he were alive, would you want to confront now, or do you want to just leave that in the past? Now, when I say confront, I'm not saying to go in there like throwing lightning, but just letting him know not only do you remember, but you also, through the love of Christ, have forgiven him.
When I was first thought of this book to write, I put it off because I thought the only way I could get an ending for this book is if I meet the person in person and actually go there and put myself in that environment and see how far I've grown. And it was my mom who said, "Why do you need to do that? You don't need to do that." And, like, sort of just live your life. If I happen to meet him and he just happens to go to our church, I would definitely need a hug first and just, like, maybe have my dad stand behind me and just say, "Hey, this happened. I remembered. And it is a struggle. And I forgive you." I don't know how he'll respond.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll deny it happening and whatnot, but
If that event did happen, and if he did deny anything, then I think at that point you would know whether he was a true man of God at that point.
yeah.
Because we both know that Jesus taught that not everybody that says, "Lord, Lord," will enter into the kingdom of heaven, right? So if put into that position where truth is confronted and he denies the truth of what happened, then, you know, so, but we also, if that does happen, we also need a word. So, like, if you scream like duck, 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 or maybe like, I don't know, like squirrel, 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 then like all the men of the church like surround the guy, and then like if he denies it, then there's like a beat down. And then, I mean, there might be like Channel 8 News show up, but they'd be like, "Today at a church there was a beat down." Well, I mean, he deserved it.
Probably have dad say, like,
No.
2 arms or something.
Well, no, let's see. What would be something that we could, like, Voltron a symbol or something like that, Power Rangers symbol, or no, that's what he could yell. He could yell at the top of his lungs, "It's morphin' time," and then all the people, all the guys would show up. That might be fun.
Yeah, have Avengers assemble.
Oh, that's a good one too. I thought we'd have to ask him. What would you rather yell in church? Avengers Assemble. I think Avengers Assemble might be better. Or Avengers Assemble, or It's Morphin' Time. Because if he yelled Morphin' Time,
I don't think he'd understand the reference.
you don't think so?
Yeah.
You don't think he knows who the Power Rangers are?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about them.
Well, I mean, who wants to talk about the Power Rangers?
Yeah, true point. Good
The
point.
great, the only one that matters is gone, right? The Green Ranger passed into eternity, you know, I don't know if you know. Do you know? Did you ever watch the Power Rangers? So the Green Ranger was a very much outspoken Christian, and there's not a lot of people in the world of Hollywood that when they pass, I generally get sad about. And I was actually pretty sad when he passed. His was self-inflicted, you know, he was such a powerful voice within the community. I met him twice in person. Like, I met him, like, I'm a huge fan of MMA, so I met him at 2 different MMA conferences because he had a line of shirts called "Jesus Didn't Tap." And because in the world, do you get that reference? So in the world of jiu-jitsu, if you get somebody in a chokehold, they can tap, and that's the end of it, right? You let go of the tap. So Jesus didn't tap while he was on the cross, right? So I met him there a couple of times. We had some really good conversations, and I got a picture with him a couple of times. And then I saw him at like a nerd convention. Totally different. Like at the MMA, I walked straight up to him. Nobody was talking to him because it was a MMA event, right?
Right.
Go to a nerd thing, dude. swarms of people. He was standing up on a piano, just like commanding the crowds, like everybody loved. His name was Jason David Frank, and then yeah, so Power Ranger rabbit hole. Apologize for that. Let's bring
It's
us
okay.
back. You know, your dad's probably never seen Power Rangers. He's like, why are you talking about Power Rangers?
I
But
mean,
no,
the more you know. I
yeah,
just didn't grow up, but I also grew up in an environment where we we couldn't read certain
mm,
things. We couldn't listen to the radio. We couldn't go to movie theaters. Uh, Women had to wear these things called culottes, split skirts, or skirts and dresses. You can't have shirts below your collarbone. Can't wear spaghetti straps. Like very controlled setting.
mm. Now was that your parents putting that, or was that them adhering to the church y'all were going to?
Adhering to the
Mm.
church.
And this was a Baptist church?
Yes.
That's wild to me.
It,
Um,
it was. I like to think of it more as a cult than
yeah.
an actual church
Mm,
because it's where I learned that they had bus kids who would come in,
mm,
and like my parents would treat all the kids like they're kids. Doesn't matter if they're bus kids or church kids. If they're doing something wrong, they'll correct them. If they do something right, they'll high five them. And but other people in the church would be like, oh, they're the bus kids. We got to give them, like, you can't answer questions. They have to answer, like, we have to give them a chance. And things like that. So it was like special treatment. We
yeah.
all got this,
That's weird.
and they were all treated differently.
Yeah.
So it became in my head like, there's us, and then there's them, just based on what I saw.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild to me. I know every church is different, but like
Mm-hmm.
I grew up, so we went. You know, we were always going to Baptist churches, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were always. I found out as I grew up and became an adult, they were always independent, fundamental. So they didn't adhere to really anything other than Scripture, right? And the local, like the pastor, always had the deacons, and then there was the body of the church that voted on stuff. But like for the most part, there wasn't really like I never. So when you said that it was like a cultist Baptist thing, I was like, that's kind of
Yeah,
wild
the
to me.
church, I believe, no longer exists.
Mm,
But while there, we had like, there were times like my grandma would get me sweatpants. We couldn't wear them outside because my mom was terrified that someone from the church would see us
mm,
in them. And this was a place where if they learned your sin, they wouldn't gather around you and pray for you. They might in question, but they would start ostracizing you because God's punishing you.
mm.
Like your life is going downhill because you did something wrong, and that's your problem.
Yeah, not what the Bible says to
No.
do at all. But then again, I was raised in a household that was there. In some ways, it was super strict. In some ways, it wasn't. So, like, I grew up where. Have you ever watched the TV show The Simpsons? Do you even know what that is?
I do know
Okay, I
what
just want to
this
make sure. I just want to make
Again,
sure.
it's not really a show I watched
Right.
a lot.
So back whenever I was a kid, it was literally the worst thing you could watch on TV. So like I could never watch. Like I would have to wait for my mom and dad to like leave the house. I prayed for them to like leave because it used to come on I think on Thursdays. So Thursdays sometimes they would go out and I'd be like, hey, today I can actually watch The Simpsons. And when you look back at it now, granted society has gone further down the sewer, but like
Right.
you're watching, like that wasn't that bad. All he did was tell his dad to eat his shorts, right? That's all Bart Simpson was trying to do is make his dad eat his shorts, right? But yeah, so I'm not trying to compare, by the way, I'm just letting
Oh
you
no,
know.
no, I
I'm
know
just
that.
so like my parents worried about what others in the church thought, but it wasn't at the point where where if you were wearing the wrong pants, that's a whole different level. So yeah.
Oh, I remember when I wore jeans for the first time. It was at a friend's house,
Mm,
and when I went there again, she let me borrow the pants, and they were gonna take photos because it was her birthday, and I was terrified that my parents would see this photo and see I'm wearing jeans. And so like the grandmother there, she's like, it's okay. I'm gonna take it from the waist up. They'll never know you're okay. And it was also the first time I listened to like the radio in their
mm.
car. That's why I have this. I have the song is still like a favorite of mine, and it's "You Belong with Me" by Taylor Swift. And well, it was when my friend found out that I had never listened to the radio before and never heard this song. She leaned forward and she turned it all the way up, and she's just like dancing, and I'm over here like, you can dance too?
You know, when you tell that story, because my brain is the way it is, like I envision the person turning on the radio, and when the music comes through the speakers, you're like, what is that? What is that noise that's coming out
Yeah,
of
I
the
didn't know
car?
music, but I didn't know radio. But
So what year was this?
when I first, I think it was like 2009
Okay.
or something like that, and then we got free in 2010, and the first, one of the first actual Christian songs we listened to on the radio that wasn't the old hymns or a certain college or only something with like piano music or the acoustic guitar. It was a song that I will always remember because it just sent chills throughout my entire body, and I just started crying because I couldn't believe Christian music could be so beautiful. And it was "I Can Only Imagine" by
Yeah.
Mercy Me.
That's a great song.
I didn't even know that Christian music has been sounding like that for years. I thought it was just a new thing
Yeah,
because
piano, organ, and that's it.
yeah, and it actually had drums and it wasn't considered the devil's music. And it was just like, this is so beautiful. I love it so much. So I have like special Christian songs because they were there for me when I was going through these hard times, and I would play like the album "Listen to the Sound" by Building 429. I would play that on repeat, and I love the song "Warzone," and because it talks about like I'm caught in a war zone and I'm tired and things like that, and I would just listen to it over and over, and it would just help me through a really bad day.
Yeah.
So like, I love this music.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting to me because I think, and this is just my brain, just because it is what it is, right? Like, I graduated in '99, right? So I just assume that every kid, for the most part, again, this is just me being dull, it just grew up with like a smartphone or phone in their bed. So, like, when you say that you're listening to music, outside of just church for the first time in like 2009, I'm like, how does that happen, right? Because my brain is because my son was born in 2020. I'm sorry, not 2020, 2000. So as he grew up, like phones became more prevalent, and then all of a sudden, he's got a phone when he's going into high school, and he's
Yeah,
listening.
we had a Droid Razor that we would share between me and my siblings, and then when we got into high school is when we had individual phones. But no, it was also after we got out of the church that we found out more about Harry Potter. Oh, this is
Pop
funny.
culture, Chainsaw Man.
Right? This is funny though, because we were inside, we were in a hotel. I can't remember which hotel it was, but it was that night, and we're just flipping through the channels, and we caught the ending of Harry Potter: Order of the Phoenix,
Okay.
and we're like, "Hey, this actually looks really cool." And Dad's like, "This is cool. We should watch them."
Sinners! Sinners!
We got the books, we read the books, and we were like, why couldn't we read these? Like, sure, it's got witchcraft in it, but this is a story of friendship
Yeah.
and all these different things. And we couldn't read those, we couldn't watch them, and then we watched the movies, and we were like, we love them. We even played the Lego games.
That's funny. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Tell me if you know this already, okay?
Oh,
So did you know? Do you participate in Audible at all?
No.
So you know what Audible is?
Yes.
So Audible is releasing one book at a time. They paid real actors to go in there and voice everything of the books. So like I have bought 3 of, I think there's 7 books. So they're releasing them. They're staggering them. So I think the 4th book's about to come out. So my buddy told me about it, and the guy that played Jon Snow, I guess he's playing Harry Potter. So he's reading all of Harry Potter's lines. It's supposed to be. I haven't listened to a single one yet, but the reason why I'm telling you that is just in case if you want that, since you like Harry Potter so much. But my Harry Potter experience was this. I was alive when they came out, so I was fundamentally aware that they were a kid's story, right? So I I'm not gonna lie, totally blacked out. Like I don't care about this stuff. This is for kids, complete kid stuff. I'm too like I don't want to deal with that, right? So all the movies came out, and of course they were all old by the time that the movies came out. And like with each movie that came out, it looked more and more adult. And I was like, oh, whatever. And then Christy and I got married. I can't remember when the movies and books came out, but ultimately what it boiled down to is I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, Christy was like, I want to read the books. So what we did is for Christmas, I bought her all like a big
The box set.
the box set. So what she would do is she would read the book, then we'd watch the movie. She would read the book and then we'd watch the movie. So I've seen all the movies, but I haven't read the books yet. Well, listened to the books yet, but she read through all of them and she loves them. And so she has a lot more affinity for Harry Potter and that whole world than I do. I just enjoyed, I think from Order of the Phoenix on. My favorite one was The Prisoner of Az whatever it's called.
Azkaban, yeah.
And here's why: the guy that played Sirius Black, that's one of my favorite actors of all time.
Gary Oldman, yeah.
Gary, and I didn't know that he was in the movie. So as soon as I saw him, because at the beginning, minor spoilers, they portray like he is the villain. So I was like, oh man, he's only going to be in one movie. But it turned what he was in like a movie and a half, and then so once what happened to him, the way that it happened in the movies, like I didn't know that he had passed. I was like, I kept waiting for him to come back, and then when he showed up, I think in the fire, I think is when he came back again, just real quick to show that he was dead. I can't remember exactly what happened. I just know that he went out, and I was very mad that he went out that way, just because it's Gary Oldman. I love him, and Commissioner Gordon in the Batman movies. But of course, he's a lot more than that. He's the only guy that I'm aware of that he is a white guy that played a black guy in a movie.
Not Robert Downey Jr.
So Robert Downey Jr. played a dude pretending to be another dude. So in what was that movie? He played a Jamaican. It was True Romance, I think, if I'm remembering the movie correctly. I could be wrong, but I know that he played a Jamaican in a movie, and so, but it was when he was really young. But he's got an array of phenomenal movies. But one of the things that I wanted to go back to, because I think I took us down this rabbit hole again.
Like I said, I will follow you because these are fun topics. I
It
just
is,
want
it
to
is.
keep talking about
That's
them.
why that's why your dad was like, I got to come back. We got to talk about pop culture. I was like, come on, let's get it done, right? But when it comes to the book, one thing I wanted to tell you is, as you were talking about this book, and I'm going to give away too much, or maybe not too much. I'll stop if I think I'm giving away too much. But it's interesting to me that you've written a book about church hurt and being healed from that, when I'm currently in progress of writing a movie that is a story about twin brothers, not two twin brothers, but twin brothers, where one of them is gay, and the church abandons him so much that he commits suicide. So the one brother is left over, and he sees the hypocrisy of the church, of his parents at home, and all that sort of stuff. So because if you've met twins, like twins are like this, right? So of course the one twin knew that the other twin was gay, but he still loved him and all that sort of stuff. So when he finally does take his own life, the one that's left over is only left over with the hypocrisy of the church. So it's him trying to deal with his place in the church, because at a certain point, again, with not giving out too much, like he was being groomed in the church to become a pastor, like the pastor of the church. His brother was not. His brother was basically like essentially going to be groomed to be like the song leader, because he was hiding his nature, whatever, however you want to describe that. He was hiding that, and so when it all comes out and the church abandons the one brother, but then kind of circles around the brother that's normal, right? Then it leaves, once one brother does what he does, you have this moment where it all culminates in the kitchen between the brother that's left over and the dad. And it was definitely an interesting scene to write, just because the dad does not do the right thing, and the brother loses his anger towards his dad. So, but it's interesting that you wrote this story about church hurt and healing, and while also I'm writing this story because I think what God and Justin, other people that I've talked to that are writing stuff too, I think that Christian media, whether it's books, movies, TV shows, have done this protection thing where like everything is like this very, very like everything's okay all the time, right? You have these goofy stories and then you have these goofy endings. There's nothing real complicated about the story, right? If you've ever seen Fireproof, right?
Yeah.
Fireproof is an example of it's a good story to tell, but it's goofy, right? You know, he whatever you've seen the movie, and then you have like movies like Courageous. You have movies like War Room. You have all these different kinds of movies that have this good premise, goofy story, movie ends, right? No one has really that I've seen has tackled the really, really, really hard topics that are going on right now, and that was the crux of the idea for the story that I've written.
I also want to say in movies like those, when they pray to God and they ask Him for these things, like, and typically in those movies, they get exactly what they need.
Yeah.
And like, God doesn't really work like that. He gives you what you need, not what you want, and it may not be in a way that you want it to happen. So it's like, I've heard a message before about the cookie cutter God, and that God's like a genie where you wish God, I need you to do this for me, and then typically in those movies, like, it happens,
Yeah.
and it's a perfect day because God answered this prayer exactly how they needed it. And they are good movies. I enjoy watching them, but you're right.
Good is subjective. But yeah, I get what you mean. I get the thought press behind them. I really do because without those movies, we don't get The Chosen. That's my thought process behind it. Is without goofy movies like Flywheel, Facing Giants, Fireproof, uh, Life Mark, Courageous, Faith and Potatoes, like all those movies, and I've left out a whole bunch that I've seen. But without those movies, we don't get The Chosen, which is to me, it's a high quality show with that shot respectfully and in a way that people that don't know scripture can be introduced to it. But I do think that stories need to be told. Like there was a short story I wrote. It was a short screenplay that got nominated. I don't either way. It's called A Family Meeting, right? And it's a story about this father who it was a family meeting. He called his brother and his sister to the house, and the house was to let them know that they started going to church, that they got saved, and he was there to apologize to the kids for being a drunk, abusive, all that sort of stuff. One kid accepts it, the other kids doesn't accept it, and then he leaves. You know, in light of telling the story, you have the father in between the time that we see him and the time we see him again. He dies in an accident. So the son that didn't accept his forgiveness has a meeting with the pastor, and then like you have this moment where like his dad, there was a change in his dad, and through this guy that he didn't like at the first meeting, which was a pastor, like through this moment, he's like, okay, maybe my dad did change, right? And I do like movies like Inception, where you get to make your own decision on how that movie ends, right? So in my story, he gets in the car to either go to the church to talk to the pastor or to a liquor store, and you see him drive up, and you don't know which place he went to. So
I like the open ending.
yeah, so do I, because the fact that like I wrote it in a way where he's still mad at his dad because his whole thing was, and these things happen, right?
Yep.
These things happen where like you have someone that fundamentally has a change, and then like you sit down at the table and you expect all the people that you have mistreated for sometimes their entire life to like, okay, I got saved, now forgive me. And that's not the way that it works, right? So I think telling hard stories like this, or like other stories that hopefully are coming up that will actually challenge the church, will help move us forward. And I think stories like yours is definitely important, and I definitely pray that God uses that to, if it helps one person, right?
I hope to bring people hope.
Yeah.
And let them know there's an exit. Yeah.
And that exit is Jesus. And if they already have Jesus, that the hope that you can bring them is to say, "Hey, I was there. Now here's how I got over." And yeah, I think powerful stories like that can help change people's lives.
I hope so. Like I said, I did not want to write this story, and I wrote it in 3 months. So like God, I needed help. Sorry,
That's okay.
but
Well, that's one of those things. Like once you start, what were you about to point at something?
no, I was gonna point to the cover.
Oh yeah.
Uh, this isn't. I will be hiring an artist to fix this. This is just a cover put together that I can see the idea in my head, and I know what to do now. But I designed it this way because it's supposed to be Ruth holding a knife to pick it up, and Jesus' hand holding it down,
Yeah.
and just putting it down, saying, "No, you don't need the knife." And the knife is, I love using the knife because not only does she want to like stab the person, but I also tried to commit suicide with a knife.
Mm.
And so it's just putting the knife down.
Yeah.
And I want it to be like Jesus is bringing life to her barren land. And
Yeah. Have you looked into like Celebrate Recovery to help people that are in the similar or in the similar situation that you were in? I say Celebrate Recovery, but there might be something else out there that deals with like church hurt or even potentially self harm. That if you're thinking about it and you're in the church, that like, hey, I've been through it and God brought me out of it.
being honest, I haven't thought about it because I struggle with thinking that people need my story and they need me to and I'm I tell myself, they need this person who I go to for advice because they are wiser than me. They know the Bible better than me. They know they can say the right words. And here I am, I struggle over certain words, like I stutter a bit. I what if what if I say the wrong things and they don't need me because it's like I have all these bad days, and like it's got to be someone who is already healed and already moved past that, and they're the ones that they need, not me. So
And you know what that is? That's the enemy in your head.
yeah,
Read Ephesians.
that's what my mom tells me.
Yep. Read Ephesians and see what God thinks about you. Right. So that's one thing that I've learned over the years is that feeling that you have, that feeling that you have that's telling you not to help people is the enemy, and and they they may need somebody that is more polished than you, but maybe that person didn't go through it, and you had the proper words, and maybe through whatever stutters you think you may or may not have, that is a realism and a level of just what they need, right? So I would tell you, sounds like your mom's already given you the advice, but sometimes it takes somebody outside of the parental guidance because I could tell him to not do this, this, and this, and he'll be like, whatever. And then if you say you probably shouldn't do that, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's right, I probably shouldn't do that. But I would tell you to read Ephesians, specifically chapter 1, and just ask God to reveal because Ephesians is really, really, really good about telling you how God thinks about you. I mean, that's what the New Testament is about, right? But Ephesians specifically, I would start there, and it'll be so good. And and if you do, you do. If you don't, you don't.
Right.
I'm not gonna show up Sunday and be like, hey, did you? No, I want you to feel comfortable, and if it is in God's will, you will do it. And if it's not, then it won't. But as far as that goes, I know I said the end of March because I told you, and you've learned throughout the time my brain is dumb. So you said around Easter is when this thing is
Yes.
going to drop. So pending the new artist drawing, then this will be available. Is it going to be available on Amazon, or is it going to be through your Instagram?
It'll be on Amazon, and I will have a link to it through
Okay.
Instagram. It'll be in Ingram Sparks, and I have a bookstore that it's going to be in.
Okay, great.
It's
So what I'll do is at some point, like we kind of talked about before we hit the go button, is I will get the links from you, and we'll put it all the into the links so that when somebody clicks on the episode, they'll see your name, they'll see your link to your store. Because the second interview I did with a buddy of mine who wrote a book. He was a military guy that he saw some stuff, and it was the book that he wrote was essentially about letters that he wrote to himself from God, trying to get over the trauma because he saw some stuff. He was over there in the middle of it. He helps other soldiers that deal with PTSD. He uses scripture and Bible to help them get over, or not get over, but you know what I mean, like help
Yeah.
them cope with what they're going through. Because, there was portions of his body that are not his anymore because they had to basically rebuild it because of the stuff that they went through. So we put his link in there, and people have clicked on it. He's like, "Hey, I got a couple of clicks." I'm like, "Yes." Even if it's just one click, that's still one more click that you didn't get that you got because of this. Because I know what I'm hoping is with like his book and your book, like as the podcast gets bigger and bigger, that people go back and maybe 5 months from now, if we're double or triple in size, somebody watches this and hears your story and clicks on the link and reads your book, and God used your book to be like, okay, take these thoughts away from them, right? That's what I'm hoping for. Same thing with his book, right? A soldier clicks on this, even if it's one soldier clicks on the link and buys his book and reads it and stops himself from doing any sort of self-harm,
Yeah.
right? That would be amazing, right? Just that's what I pray for his book. That's what I pray for your book. Just that God uses it to further His kingdom and help people through this. And then of course your dragon one too. So yeah, okay. Dexter's waving at me. He was very inconspicuous that time. Generally he just waves, but I heard him snapping at me. It's like, that's not the way to do it. I'm trying to get this phenomenal thought out about your book and what I want God to do, and I hear, I'm like, he knows that will throw me off. He knows that will throw me off, but he does it anyways.
Maybe you should have someone else tell him then.
Yeah, you know what? We need to find another producer. You're fired from the band. So, what is I'm gonna change the topic to help land the ship a little bit since he snapped at us. So, what is your favorite anime of all time?
Oh dear. Yeah, that's a terrible question. I don't know because I like so many.
Yeah.
And well, currently I am watching One Piece. I love Luffy and
There's like 200 episodes, right?
sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never watched One Piece, so
Really?
yeah.
There's over 1,000
Oh, so there's over
of
1,000.
season 1.
So guess what? I will never watch One Piece.
You should.
There's 1,000 episodes.
Yeah. It'll
Yeah.
take you a while, but you can get through it.
Pass. That's
We
so
are halfway through season 1.
pass. Pass. But so you like it? It's pretty good. Did you watch the Netflix series?
That's actually how we decided to start watching the
Oh, okay.
anime is through the live action.
So what do you think of the difference? Because generally Netflix really fumbles the ball on.
Well, I think they
animes.
kept the characteristics and personalities very similar. There's a bit difference with action sequences, and a bit like they remove one character that I ended up loving in the show, and it was Hachi, this little octopus guy. Like, he's a fun guy, but they do make changes. But I think they stick to like the spirit of the story very well.
They probably, if there's an octopus guy, don't you think they probably removed him for budgetary reasons?
That's what I'm thinking, but he does show up later in the series. So,
Okay.
But I hear they might not make it that far with the live action, but I don't
There's
know.
1,000 episodes. How in the world can they make?
Over 1,000. There's actually over
1,000.
1,100.
Oh my gosh! And you're like, you should start it today. No, No, I barely made it through My Hero Academia, and there's what, like 100 and change of that one.
No, there's like what, 8 seasons?
Yes. No, I think 7. There's 8. Yeah.
Because I finished reading the manga before they finished the anime, so I know how it ends, but I do want to see the animated version.
So you haven't seen the ending of the show
I
of
know
My
the
Hero?
ending. I've read
Yeah.
it, but I haven't seen it. So yeah.
So one thing I will tell you, and so the show, there's a rumor that there's still one more episode left. So you know the
Ooh.
entire season's out.
Uh-huh.
The final season's out. You can watch it. So we watched it, and I'm not going to spoil anything, even though you've already read it. But like there are storylines that did not wrap up. And when the show came to an end, I was like, "That's weird that they didn't address some of the things that had happened in the show." I'll be very vague. There's like a love arc, like a romance arc that they started in I think season 1 that never came like they never that was never resolved. And then I watched a YouTube video where in the manga it was resolved and I was like, what in the world? And then that because of YouTube and algorithm it led to another video that said that there's still one more episode supposedly that's going to come out that it is like the final chapter of the manga, which I was like, why didn't they just release all of it anyways? That didn't make sense, right? Because everything was resolved except for like loose ends, right? And so I thought that was weird, but I thoroughly enjoyed My Hero. So what season are you on?
I finished with season 6. That's as far as I got, and then I read the manga, and I haven't kept up with watching the seasons because I started watching other things.
Yeah,
like
so
One
solo
Piece,
leveling,
solo leveling,
solo level.
Mashal, Sabayori Day. What is Sakamoto Days? Um, Things like that. Oh, can I change it? Can I tell you the first anime I watched? Because that's easier to answer than my favorite.
Okay.
It was Oran High. It was this shoujo romance, and I watched it with my sister.
The very first anime I ever watched was this show called Robotech, and that came out in like the 80s. And later on, I found out that what Robotech was, it was like this crazy cartoon that they put together. Like they took 3 animes and then they smashed them together and told a story. And I was like, how in the world did they do that? Right? Because you have 3 different things going on, but for however reason, it worked out to where they told this story. I enjoyed it. One of the movies I wrote was Robotech the movie, right? I heard that like back in the day, like I heard that I researched it, found out that Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, had owned the rights to Robotech, and tried to send a copy. Again, this is before I knew about copyrights and not cease and desist, but what's the non-disclosure NDAs
Right.
before I knew anything about that, right? So, I was trying to find them. I wrote this movie. I wanted them to get it because I would love to see a Robotech movie made, right? So I was trying to send it to them. They're like, well, blah, blah, blah. Do you have this, this, and this? And I was like, no. They're like, well, you can't send it to us because we'll just take it and throw it in the trash because this, and this. I'm like, rejection.
It's terrible.
Yeah, I hate it so much. But yeah, Robotech was my favorite anime, and the premise of it is there's this ship that crash lands on Earth way back in the day in 1999. Okay, keep in mind this was in the future, so in 1999. Because you remember this took place like it was in the 80s that this cartoon came
Right.
out. So in the future in 1999, this space ship crash lands on Earth, and then the Earths who was fighting each other stopped, and because they saw that we came together as a species. We took the technology and made it our own, and then the aliens came back, like, I don't know, like 40 years later to get their crashed ship, and they're attacking us now. So, and that's the story of them attacking us 40 years after we took over their technology and made it our own. Like every other anime.
Not necessarily
But
every.
but like my favorite one that I'm currently watching now outside of Solo Leveling is I haven't watched a single episode of season 3, but One Punch Man. There's a lot of people that don't like season 2. I love season 2 because it's
I
so
know a lot
absurd.
of people who don't like season 3.
Oh really? Because
They call it one frame man.
it's now one frame man. What does that mean?
That means you only have one frame actions. So it's like looking at like manga on a screen. So they have like Think of you're watching a puppet show, and the characters don't move; they just slide across the screen.
Oh,
That's kind of what happened to One Punch Man season 3.
so that means that they didn't animate it very well.
He's not
Oh,
animated very
oh.
well.
But is the story there? Because that's the thing about One Punch Man is his stories are so absurd. Then that's what makes his story great. Because you've seen him, right? You know, he ran and did push-ups and sit-ups until his hair fell out,
Yeah.
and then that's how he got superpowers. Right? It's so dumb.
Yeah, but it's fun.
I'm right. I love it. So season 3, I think either just ended or is in the process of coming
Ooh,
out. But
I don't know for sure. Just keep in mind that the animation may be off.
so here's what I tell you. My son, he is a anime snob, and so I will tell him like, "Hey, I'm starting to watch this," and he'll be like, "Duh, the animation is so terrible." Blah 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 blah. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, or he'll say like, I'm not saying that he said this about My Hero. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, the animation was great until season 7, and then they got sloppy." He
I've been hearing that.
well, no, he didn't say that, but I'm just using
No,
it
I've
as an
been hearing
example.
other people saying stuff like, the animation went off or the storyline went off. It's
I
terrible. I'm like, one of the shows that my dad and I like that a lot of people didn't is, was it Rising of the Shield Hero, I believe? It's got one character that I would just like to put in the ground, but uh, besides that, we thought it was good. We thought the storyline was great, and then I found people talking about how uh, he's like a bit like solo leveling, where he levels up his shield, and that's how he gets stronger. But he goes to a new world, and he loses all of that, and he's back at level 1 again. And I heard a lot of people complaining, and I'm like, that makes complete sense. And he just, he levels up differently and things like that. I'm like, I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you ever give the show Invincible a chance? Have you ever watched
Not
that?
yet. That's in
So
my watch list.
so that's the perfect best way to describe the snobbiness. And I hope he listens to this. I hope he knows that I call it snobbiness because he doesn't watch Invincible because he has a problem with the way that it's animated, and I'm just like, I don't care. Like, it's a great story, right?
Wait, if he has trouble with animation, what does he think about like the newer animations, like what they did with the Spider Into the Spider Verse, Puss in Boots' Last Wish? Like they're playing around with animation styles. Like, if you
Yeah, I don't know about that. I would hope that he wouldn't have a problem with the Spider Verse because those are
so so
phenomenal.
great.
Those are
They left
phenomenal
it on a
movies.
cliffhanger, and I hate them
Yeah,
for it.
yeah. I knew that they were going to probably end on a cliffhanger because they had talked about there was going to be 3 of
Yeah.
them, but like I wasn't expecting it to be this long in between movies, and you keep waiting this long, and no matter how popular these movies are, people forget about them, and you want to hit while it's hot.
Yeah, well, that's when the trailer pops and everybody's like, "Oh, it's
Yeah,
finally here." I would love them to just make sure they do it right
yeah.
and not cut corners.
Well, they were supposed to release it a year later. Like it was supposed to be October of whatever years into the Spider Verse or across the Spider Verse, and then the next year, the next one's supposed to come out, and that was like 2, 3 years ago at this point, where it's like I will be in line, I will purchase my ticket for that movie, but like it's time to release it. Like give us something because like Mandalorian and Grogu. The trailer came out for it today, and that movie, the TV show, has been shot and released since Across the Spider Verse came out, and they need to do something with it. But yeah, I would tell you Invincible. It's a little bit.
Oh, I've heard good things
It's
about it.
got a little bit of potty mouth
I
stuff,
know that
but
too.
like, but other than the potty mouth, it's a phenomenal story. It really is. So for me, I watched season 1, and when season 1 ended, I was like, I cannot wait until season 2. So I went and got all the comic books because the story's complete. We don't have to wait for George R. R. Martin to finish the story. We don't have to wait
That's
for
the
anything.
best.
Right. We don't have to wait for anything. The story is over with. So I was like, do I wait 2 years because they weren't expecting season 1 to be as popular as it was. So it was 2 years, if I remember correctly, between 1 and 2, and then they were doing 2 and 3 at the same time as far as animation reading. So they're staying ahead of the game. So now every year there's going to be, so like March. there'll be another season of Invincible that
Okay.
comes out. So I was like, do I wait or do I read them all? So I just, whoosh, just read them all. So now the anticipation of these characters that I know that are coming is like, I'm like, yes, sign
Thing
me up.
is, I'm one of those people like if I read a book and they make the movie out of the book, um, if they change, like what is I can't remember the entire title for it because it's kind of a long title, but it's this manga called it's the villainous. Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's just it pretty much like it's one of those reincarnated villainesses and she decides to go after like she gains her memory and gets her engagement broken off and things like that. So she goes over to find the demon lord, who is supposed to be like the villain of the story, and like I want to marry you instead. But in the manga, there were like little bits and pieces of romance between the two characters that they kind of like sped through in the anime. Like they go through like 3 volumes in 3 episodes.
Oh, wow. So that's a lot.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they skip out a lot, and I'm like, they just removed my favorite parts. Why you do that?
Well, here's what I'd tell you, at least about Invincible. They have not left anything out. In fact, this coming season, they have done us a solid as a fan base that have read the comic books. So there was a storyline that Robert Kirkman, that's the guy that actually wrote The Walking Dead, he also did Invincible. He started a story arc that he took out of the comic books that he never introduced, that he introduced into the show. So now we have this extra side story that's going to start happening that we don't know what's going to happen. That's kind of cool,
That is cool.
right? So I think that's really cool on his part. But the brutality in this movie or in this TV show is pretty crazy. If you ever saw the anime Berserk, it's a little bit. It's not as
On that level, or
it's on a level, the same level, but with fists, not with swords and stuff like that.
Okay.
Because like they don't have swords or anything like they just punch each other. It gets a little bit crazy there, but
Okay.
but
I've probably, yeah, I'd be okay with watching it.
yeah, I mean, I think your dad will like it. I think your dad will come up to me like, hey, I watched the Invincible, and he's like, yeah, I kind of side with Omni Man. I feel like I'm an Omni Man guy.
We shall see
Yeah,
then.
and Omni Man is voiced by none other than J. Jonah Jameson himself. I forget his name in real life. I can see his face, but from Spider Man, he's a criminal. What's his
J.K.
name?
Simmons?
Yes, there you go. The S popped into my head, but he also played Commissioner Gordon Affleck Batman normally sits right here, but he was Commissioner Gordon for Ben Affleck's Batman. But yeah, I kind of told you, and hopefully you've been kind of somewhat mentally preparing yourself for the words of wisdom. You don't have to give words of wisdom, but like I'm starting to land the ship for you. So like as I'm talking about the words of wisdom, you can slowly start putting together thoughts, or you can say, "Aaron, go jump in a lake and just end the show." But but so like the words of wisdom, with you writing this book, you definitely do have words of wisdom when it comes to the topics that you have written about. So at the end of every podcast, we always like to give the guest the camera. You can either look at me or if you want to look at the camera, it doesn't matter. But like this is your time to just kind of speak one on one. It's kind of like what I told you earlier, where whether it's as soon as I hit live and it goes live on YouTube, or hopefully people will slowly start watching this, and whether it's as soon as I go live or 1 month from now, a week from now, 2 months from now, that somebody comes across this and they've heard you talk about what you've gone through and they're encouraged by this. So, like, whatever words of wisdom you got, this is your time.
Oh dear.
It didn't have to be long. You can be like, hi, everybody, goodbye.
Okay.
Or no.
Okay.
But this is your time. Words of wisdom.
Okay. All right. I'll tell you something someone told me that stuck with me throughout the years and helped me start being okay with my true self and like not putting on a mask. And it was, I I was told that whether something is a compliment or an insult is up to you. They can say whatever they want to say, but it's up to you to decide how to take it. And that's actually really helped me through life. It's probably a one-off thing. He was telling me about how he like broke his foot or something jumping off a two-story, and then he just comes out and tells me this. It's a good guy.
Yeah, that's actually kind of blows my mind, right? You know, I'm not kidding. I'm like, oh yeah, my mind's been blown twice this week. One by PT and one by you.
Yay!
Because I've never even thought about that before. It's like if somebody said something to you, it's your fault if you get offended by it. Because if they don't matter, they don't matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
No, it started because I called him crazy for jumping off a two-story building. He's like, whether something is an insult or a compliment is up to me.
words to live by. You should get that tattooed right here, just
I
like
already
that.
got a tattoo. I'm okay without another one.
All right, Sarah, I hope you had fun doing the podcast. I had fun talking to you about and nerding out because, you know, we kind of shared stories. You kind of led us into your world of your dragon books, which is very, like, all the stories that you have kind of shared just a little bit of, because, you know, you don't want to share all of it. They've all been interesting and original. That's what I look for with stuff like the Dragon Hunters, along with, yeah, it's just original content is always the best, right? And, you know, so if you look at one of my first movies, it's not original content. It's just stealing from others. Because, you know, when you first start writing, you're just like, I'll steal from others. Like one of my very first movies, which I can't tell you the name of because there's profanity in the name because, you know, I was younger, was about a cop. And all it was just stealing from other cop movies. And it's like, yeah, look back, I'm like, super embarrassed about the content that I wrote, but I'm also super embarrassed about how much I stole from everything and everybody. So original content is important.
Because some writing advice I have is, or I've been told is, take a story you really love, take it, change up characters, change up like storyline, but keep the heart of it, and then just make it your own.
Yeah. I hope you had fun today.
I did. It was better than I was expecting.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. You heard it here first. If you want to come on this show, you heard it from Sarah. It's a lot better than what she thought it was going to be. So we will put all the links that we need to into the description, and we'll get you going. And man, it was fun. I really enjoyed it too. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And like, subscribe, share, click on all the links that are below, so that way you can follow her on her Instagram, and so that way you can buy the book when it comes out. And then if you're in the DFW area and you want to be on a podcast, then send me a DM. We'll get you over here. But with that being said, this has been Aaron Ask America. Thanks for watching.
Aaron Ask America, we're talking real life. Truth, love, and struggle, no filters, no hype. From the heart of the people to the soul of the land, he's asking the questions you'll understand. Aaron Ask America.